When you explore boldly, when you voluntarily confront the unknown, you gather information and build your renewed self out of that information.
Have you ever wanted to visit a foreign country? Perhaps you already have. It can be extremely shocking to find yourself immersed in another culture. This documentary was designed to share the experience of our friend Daniel, who participated in a Chinese television show centered around taking care of panda bears. Through hard work, dedication, and an open heart, Daniel was able to overcome the cultural barriers and receive a finalist position in his program, gaining him the title of Panda Caretaker. We hope this documentary will shine a light of relevance in the year of 2021 as world tensions increase, and hopefully you'll learn something about panda bears and cultural experiences along the way. Please enjoy this adventure and remember to never give up on the journey you want to create for yourself.
That's right, I got a panda of my own, and his name's Jeff.
My name is Daniel. I'm 25 years old. Today we're gonna tackle some of my past experience in China. Pandas make a variety of sounds. In fact, they told us that there's 20 sounds they make. Most notable, they squeak and squeal, and it sounds something like it's super adorable and cute, and they actually also, they can bleat like a sheep or a goat, and that means they're really happy. They kind of laugh. They go. I just looked at these things and said to myself, whoa, this is cool. It's something different. It's neat. Over there, we would call the pandas, we'd say, if they're big and fluffy, we'd call them BFP, which means big fluffy panda. And if they were LFP, you can only guess what that would mean, little fluffy panda. One phrase that was commonly said over there was, wo ai da shu mao, which means I love the panda. One day I asked one of my friends over there, how would I say I love the fluffy panda? She told me to say that you need to say, wo ai marorong de da shu mao, and that means I love the fluffy panda. I was not used to having so many people, turn their head and glance at you because you look different. The way they treated me as a guest was so welcoming. It was really difficult for me to start talking about this, and that's probably why this is only coming out as of now. And I meet people here in the US, and it's not something that I just tell them really ever. Having this opportunity to share my story, it really means a lot to me, because I try and remain extremely humble about this experience, because I fully understand that not everyone gets this opportunity. So it's not something that I go spouting to the world. I kind of keep it to myself, because it was my own little adventure. It really changed my perspective on the world and how I view other countries, not only China, but if I ever visit Europe one day, it's gonna kind of allow me to keep an open mind. I was just browsing the web one day, and I happened to come across this Facebook page that had some information about a volunteer program where they were accepting people from all over the world to go to China and care for panda bears. I was doing some soul searching at that point in my life, so I figured to myself, you know what, let me just give this a shot. Let's apply to this volunteer program to go take care of panda bears for a whole month and see if it turns out. They accepted me. However, it was a process getting this application accepted. I had to make a mini bio documentary about myself, which my best friend helped me make this mini bio doc that we sent to the director over there for this program. I'm sure they got tons of applications. 13,000 people had liked this Facebook page and were interested. And then I saw the videos that everyone was posting, and a lot of people applied. In the mini bio doc, we went into my backstory as a filmographer, as well as my passion for nature and wildlife.
Traveling to a new country to learn a new culture and become a part of that, and being able to take care of pandas might be the most important thing that I do.
This was a great opportunity for me, not just to get more involved with animals, but also to have the opportunity to photograph these marvelous bears. After we sent the mini bio doc, I had to go through 3 rounds of interviews. It was so nerve-wracking. The first one was a one-on-one Skype call with one of the directors there. And she was just asking me about my past experience. And I even showed her a couple of panda-related things that I had around my room. And she was really just happy to hear a little about me. By the 3rd interview, I received an email saying that, congratulations, you've been accepted to this program. We will send you your flight tickets shortly. Make sure you apply for a visa and go through the visa process. I remember receiving that email. I think it was like around midnight, and I was in my room and I celebrated. I immediately jumped up from my computer chair and started running around my house like, this is really happening. I am going to China. I was like, this has to work out. We have to make this happen. After they emailed me my flight information, I had to go and apply for a Chinese visa. What that meant for me at the time living in central New York, I had to drive down to the Chinese consulate in New York City. I walk in, I approach the counter, and I give the woman my papers, and I say to her, can I have this done today? She says, oh no, you have to come back. I had to give the office staff my passport. They had to verify all my information, and they told me to come back the day of my flight. The day of my flight, I had to go back there. I drove down to the Chinese consulate again in New York City, which was about an 1.5-hour drive. I walk in, I'm greeted. Mind you, this place is busy. There's a ton of people trying to get their flight information, pick up their passports. It worked out. They gave me my passport with a printed official Chinese document which granted me access to their country. During these flights, I think it was 5 flights there and 6 back. My first flight went smooth. I made it to an airport that was in like Pennsylvania prior to going to Detroit, Michigan. But it was icy. There was a lot of snow. We almost had a layover. They almost canceled the flight, but they didn't. I was so nervous at that point. Finally, they cleared the flight. I remember the plane landed and I rushed off. I thought I forgot my wallet. My next flight is leaving in like a minute. And as the plane landed, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna make this flight. It's over. I'm not gonna be able to get on my second flight. So I'm sprinting through Detroit's airport, which has 2 giant hubs and a long thing that goes underneath the takeoff lane. I remember I got a phone call from my dad. He was tracking all my flights and he knew I was going through this. He told me that he managed to contact somebody high up in the airline management, and they managed to hold the flight for me. He says, Dan, they said they'll give you 5 minutes, and if you're not there, the plane's going. I never ran so fast in my life. I had my suitcase by my side. I had my backpack on. You know how they have those things in airports where it's a lane and there's like a pulley on it and you can stand on them and they take you? Well, I was running on those. I was sprinting as fast as I could on any one of those I could find. I probably ran through 7 of those. Mind you, my bag ripped, part of my camera gear fell out. I get to the gate at the other side and I hear this woman on the phone. She's a flight attendant there. And she's saying, yeah, I don't know why they're not letting us close the door yet, but we're not. And I said, is this the flight to LAX? They're like, yeah. And I said, did I make it? Can I board? She's like, yes. I collapsed on the ground there for a brief moment. And I laid there and looked at the ceiling of that airport. I get handed my ticket. She checks me in. I get on this plane and there are 2 rows on the side and 1 in the middle. And the entire plane was packed. And all the whispers on this plane were like, why haven't we left yet? Why haven't we left yet? Meanwhile, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, God bless my father. He called and somehow managed to get these people to hold the flight for me. That part was the biggest hurdle to get over during the flight process on the way there. The giant panda research base of Chengdu actually is the largest panda base in the world. They housed it was a couple hundred at the very least, panda bears aging from babies all the way up to subadult pandas to fully grown adult pandas. This research base would sometimes see a volume of 100,000+ people in a day. While we were there, the most busy day they told us was 80-something thousand people came through this park in a day just to see the pandas. So they really do love them over there. When I first arrived to China, the most notable thing as the plane was landing, I was looking out the window and I looked at the ground and the signs and everything, and I said to myself, this is like walking onto an alien planet. It's something completely different. You could look at certain things and you know immediately you are no longer in America. I was like, I'm in a new environment. This is so new to me. I didn't feel uncomfortable because I got to a point in my mind where I was able to talk to myself and tell myself, you have already made it this far. There is no going back from here. So you might as well embrace everything that is going to befold in front of you. And I told myself that. And it really gave me the ability and the confidence to get the most out of every moment. But once I arrived, I was exhausted. They took us back to the hotel. There was a huge meeting where everyone made it. And during this meeting, we just got to meet everybody, have some snacks. It was very nice. Never before in my life had I been around so many different people from different backgrounds and different cultures. We're all just kind of thrown together, and it's like, go ahead, go meet each other, find out all these things that are different about us. And it was nice because we found out that a lot of us have a lot of similar interests. There was plenty of cultural differences among the groups that were notable, but it was never anything that became an issue. It was always, oh, this is how we do it in my country, or this is how we do it here. And we would all just laugh and joke around with one another and tell stories, especially during the later hours after all the work was done and us just on the roof getting to know each other. Not only was this a volunteer program, but it was also a reality TV show. Not only were we there to learn about pandas, care for them, and help assist in the work and the daily activities that went on with caring for these animals, but they also were there to film this entire adventure so that way the world could also experience what it's like to be a panda keeper. I have no doubt that during my stay over there, all close to 30 of us worked extremely hard. Not only were we really good friends, but there was also a little bit of competition going on between us as individuals and also the teams that they had eventually separated us into. A lot of these challenges that they had for us were anything from cleaning the panda enclosures to the knowledge about the pandas themselves in these written style exams and tests. Quite honestly, I definitely learned a lot about these panda bears while I was over there. These bears, they can become extraordinarily heavy. The females, when they start to reach their adult lives, they're around like 200+, and the males get even heavier than that. They eat 30 to 50 pounds of bamboo a day. They spend 90% of their day eating and sleeping, and the other 10% probably playing a little bit. So they taught us a lot about their routine over there, what's best for them, how China has managed to have these bears in enclosures so successfully to keep them comfortable, keep them feeling as though they are still out and about in nature, because it's difficult when keeping animals in a confined space. Over there, they did a really good job of giving them massive enclosures for them to play in. During nighttime, they do have to come in and, they sleep inside in these smaller enclosures, but they were always comfortable, they were well fed. One of the biggest things too is over there, what they do to keep the bears interested in their environment is they promote foraging. And to do that, we have these environment enrichment tools that we had to design ourselves during one of the challenges. So me and my partner, we actually built this long tube with these sacks on it. And what we could do is put apples in this tube with holes in it, and we could tie the sack around it, and it would give the panda a challenge getting its food. So there's that sense of reward when they finally get that apple from that environment enrichment tool. It's satisfying for them. So we got to spread those out over the enclosures, fill them with apples, hide little treats here and there. One of the funnest parts over there was being able to watch the panda bears play with something that I had created and developed for them, and seeing them enjoy it and play with it. It was amazing. When we got there, it wasn't like they threw us in the pen with them and said, oh, hey, like, go hang out with bears. Like, no, you had to work. We had to clean their cages to standard while over there. We had to sanitize everything. We had to know how to weigh their food appropriately, how to cut apples for them. We had to help make their milk, and it had to be measured so meticulously with a certain amount of grams. After I was able to really put that work in with some of my other team members while I was there, they finally allowed us to start like feeding them apples through the cage, and knowing that you would just feed a panda right in front of you was incredible. I freaked out the first time I did that. I was like, I can't believe I just fed a panda. And then from there, it was holding their milk bowl for them, and you're tilting it for them as they drink it so they can get all of it. America's perspective of Chinese food is typically Chinese takeout. You have General Tso's chicken or whatever it might be with an egg roll. The food over there is nothing like what any American would ever expect it to be. I loved the food. It was very spicy. So you have these nice peppers with all your meals. They eat a lot of vegetables. Not too many meats were popular, but they're also big on fish. And the cuisine was excellent. I really enjoyed what real Chinese food was like while I was over there. I ate a lot of duck too. Never before in my life have I eaten duck. And me not being picky with food, I loved it. It was wonderful. One of the big traditional meals that I was able to eat while I was visiting Chengdu, they call it hot pot. By far was it my favorite thing that I had while I was over there. It is a nice spicy broth, and they bring out all the food for you, and you actually cook it right in that pot. There's all these pepper flavors. The Sichuan province is actually known for their peppercorn that gives this numbing sensation on like the tip of your tongue. Super spicy. I loved it because I love spicy food, and those nights were awesome. Whenever we had hot pot over there, I was like, let's go. It was an adventure in the evening hours because oftentimes there was opportunity for my friends that I made over there for them to take me out and show me their city, go to malls and restaurants and historical sites. It was really interesting to see the everyday activities of people in Chengdu, in the city there. It's a really busy city. It was always just packed with people, traveling. Seeing modern China was interesting. We went to this one mall that was super fancy, and there was all these little like trinkets and stuff that you wouldn't see here. It was all just its own thing over there, which was really cool. My friend over there, Caesar, he actually took me to this novelty section of the mall in China, and it was like a really nice bookstore. It was almost like a Barnes & Noble. It was interesting because there was all these little gadgets, these little pens, and nice small things like bookmarks and stuff like that. It was a real probably touristy area, but it was nice to see the differences from what we have here to over there. Something that kind of stood out was after Caesar took me back to his house, because he lived in the city of Chengdu, and I was able to stay with him after this adventure, this whole TV program. I was able to stay with him for 2 days, and while I was there, he showed me his stamp collection. I couldn't believe it. It was so nice to see that a lot of these people over there, they have some type of novelty, something that like they collect, or something that's really special to them. Not that we don't have that over here, just that I don't feel like that's something too common anymore here, because everyone just has their phone and all their apps on it. So for him to take out his stamp collection and show me all these old stamps from Greece and from parts of Europe, and when he visited Portugal, and it was just so interesting to see that he had taken the time to save all these in this booklet. It was interesting to make friends in a foreign country, especially right now while foreign relations aren't at an all-time high. I still hold those people and the relationships that I made over there dear to my heart. Caesar willing to just take me into his home and introduce me into his parents, and for him to allow me to just stay with them for a few days and go out to restaurants. It was nice. I gotta say, he was one of the best friends that I made while over there. It bothers me to know that I might not see him again because of where the world's at right now. His parents were so welcoming. His mom was super nice and just friendly. They made us breakfast one morning, and I was sitting at his kitchen table and I was like, this is so delicious. His parents actually made that rice porridge that I like. I was able to talk with his mom a little bit. Obviously the language barrier made it hard, but Caesar spoke excellent English, and that's why he was a really good translator for me while I was over there. And I think him having that really solid English background made us good friends. There was one girl over there, her name was Sharon. She was so fun to hang out with because we were just silly and goofy, and like I could just tell her jokes in English and she would get them, and then she would, laugh back and say something else funny. And even though we didn't entirely understand, what we were always saying, you can tell that humor played such a big role in my ability to connect with them over there. So I think that's incredibly important. If you meet someone out there and you don't speak the same language, just try and tell a joke or make a goofy noise or talk about pandas or whatever. One of the other really good friends that I made over there was Sarah. She took the time to really show me the city of Chengdu. We got to go to this Chinese amusement park that had all these giant Snoopies all over the place, and there was all these bright lights and everything. It was this real perspective on city culture in Chengdu and what young people do for fun, and they go to these cool restaurants. And of course, on top of that, Caesar, he also took me to some very ancient historical sites where he showed me these temples, and there were these chiseled gargoyle statues. And I think one day we even went hiking this giant mountain that was there. That was actually during the program. It was just really nice for them to also take us out and show us things outside the Panda base that gave us more perspective on what life in China is like. And we got to ride on a train while we were there, and their subway and train station is incredibly modern and clean and comfortable and just nice. It was a great experience to ride on these massive modern trains. We took one to a hiking area where we were passing through these rural towns, and we were on the train, and I was sitting there with Caesar. He opened up to me and he said to me, Dan, I wanted to thank you for, showing me what America is like and what Americans are like. He was upset because I think he also kind of knew that, this adventure was going to be coming to an end, and we hugged afterwards. And I said, you know what? I don't want you to look at me as an example of what to think people are like in America, because we're all so different, no matter where we're from. No matter what country you are from, there's good people and bad people everywhere. Caesar, you've been such a true and honest friend to me. You've helped me out so much throughout all this, and I couldn't have done it without you. There's definitely some cultural differences between myself personally and some of the people that I met over there and some of the people I interacted with. One time I was joking around with Caesar, and I said to him, you guys tend to bump into each other a lot in these crowds, and people are just kind of in this daze. And he goes, oh yeah, everyone just kind of goes wherever and does whatever. And I said, yeah, it's not like that here in America. Everyone's so concerned about space here, and this is my box, stay out of it type deal. But over there, it was something I had to get used to, especially as a foreigner, because I was smack dab in central China, and people like me don't go there very often. For the first time in my life, I experienced what it's like to be an outsider or someone in a minority group, because I was not used to having as many eyes on me. I was not used to having so many people, turn their head and glance at you because you look different. And it was not necessarily a bad feeling, and nor was it a good feeling. It was just something that I had not experienced before, so it was a little bit of a shock to me when, again, people would just come up to you and say, hey, I want to take a picture with you. Sometimes over there in certain places, they think you're like a celebrity, which was very odd. But I guess it really does make sense when you have so many people living in one area, and then you walk through and you clearly look different, for them to say, oh wow, like this is interesting. This doesn't happen every day. We were on our way to one of the museums, and this woman walks up to me and she sees me. She says, "Oh, can I take your picture with my class?" She took this picture of me with just what was a class of Chinese students. One time I gathered like a pretty decent group, and I had this skeletal piece. It was just a model, and I was explaining to people there on the panda base how the pandas use this pseudo thumb, which is this little pad on their area. They almost use it like a thumb, so that way they could hold and grab onto things, because they do have 5 claws. You could think of it like this part of your hand, and they actually use this part to grip around bamboo, and that's how they grab it, and they bite on it. Sometimes they break it on their head too, which is really funny to watch. One of the most difficult challenges I had over there was we had to know how to tell them apart by name. Now me, as an American, I look at some of these names and I think they all sound pretty similar, but that is not the case for them over there, because they can really pick up on if the sound goes up or down or how it's said. When naming them during this test, I struggled. I could figure out the physical trait difference, right? I could really see these notable differences in their face and their eye markings, their nose especially. But when it came to the test and they gave us the list of all these names, I struggled with putting the right name near the right panda. That was one of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome, and really study the names, study how they're said, take note of the spelling. So the Chengdu Giant Research Base of Panda Breeding is about keeping their numbers up. There are other dedicated bases in the Sichuan region that are dedicated to preparing pandas for the wild. These are a different style of base that have much larger enclosures, have little to no contact with humans, and are also focused around the breeding a little bit, but it's more of like a natural type of breeding, and they want to eventually take these younger pandas, get them ready for the wild, and if they pass all the tests, they are then released. So for these young pandas to be able to return back to the wild, they actually have to pass a few different tests. One is they need to react to humans in a standoffish fashion. They have to be able to climb, they have to be able to find food for themselves in these massive enclosures, and they need to be able to socially interact with other pandas as well. Their final test, though, is actually really interesting. In their enclosure, they have a mannequin-style snow leopard with an audio speaker near its mouth, and it makes these predatorial sounds. And the panda, if it's ready for the wild, it will run from that sound. It will go climb up a tree. If it climbs a tree, it gets away from it or goes away, it passes the test and can go to the wild. My favorite panda fact, it's the fact that their ancestors lived over 3 million years ago. For them to still be around today is amazing. Those animals had to have been doing something right to have been here for 3 million years. I think there's a huge misconception surrounding these animals these days, because a lot of people think they're stupid or lazy or whatever, but no. Part of my goal is to let people know and educate them that they are incredibly smart just for the sole fact of their ability to have been around for 3 million years, make it through an ice age, and their ancestors had once ate meat and now they moved on to eating plants just to survive and get through. That takes some willpower, and they all have their own personalities, and they want to live and enjoy their lives as well. While I was there, I got to meet a panda trainer, and he's the one who helps with getting these pandas to perform cooperative activities for the health staff to take a blood sample or help put the eye drops in to stop with the eye mite issue that sometimes they have. These pandas can be incredibly cooperative if you have the right people in front of them, training them, encouraging them, and it's all to benefit them. One of the cool things was watching them climb trees, because they are excellent climbers. These bears can climb trees and maneuver themselves upside down, frontwards, backwards, a whole bunch of different ways. Watching them climb was incredible. My favorite characteristic about these bears is really their personality. because if you watch them long enough, you will notice differences between them, and it shines through immensely. Some are just so energetic. They run so funny. I just love watching them move around in their enclosures and do like somersaults is one of their most notable things. They do like to roll around. I think pandas are they're definitely more solitary animals. They live in solitude and independency. They kind of just do their own thing. What's great about the panda base there, the Chengdu research base of giant panda breeding, is that during a young age, they kind of get them socialized with one another, and then as they get older, they break them up into their own independent enclosures. I was blessed to have the opportunity to photograph these panda bears. It was difficult to balance the photo taking time with the work time, but anytime I was able to sneak in a couple photos here and there was wonderful. I was able to get many different shots of them in groups. There's one photo I managed to capture, which was like a head-on. The panda was almost looking directly through the lens, and that was by far, I think, one of my favorite shots. And we also got to photograph them while they were eating. They were eating these moon cakes that we actually made for them. They brought us to the panda culinary. Really what it was is in these panda cakes, there's oats, milk, eggs for protein, a little honey for flavor. Then we went and dropped them off at all the enclosures around the base. Fortunately, during the time that I spent over there, it was actually the Chinese New Year season. We had that nice room at the top of the hotel on the roof that was filled with all these games we could play, TV to watch. So we celebrated Chinese New Year in that room, and I remember watching the TV thinking to myself, my goodness, I would never see anything like this in America. It was just totally different. It was, their festival, it was their New Year. And the fact that I got to see that, even from a visual perspective on a screen, it was so cool. I think Jackie Chan was on there. There were all these streamers going on, and they had the dragons and the floats, and it was culture shock. There were times over there where I just looked at these things and said to myself, whoa, this is cool. It's something different. It's neat. Sometimes I feel like people are just so focused on the here and now and what's in front of them that they fail to think about all the opportunities that are just out there in the rest of the world and places to go and to travel to one day and even read about. Everyone's just so focused on what's like right in front of them. And sometimes that's a good thing, but other times I feel if you do that too much, you might miss out. The world would be a better place if more people kind of went out of their comfort zone and they went and tried to experience new things to get some more perspective on life and the world and their place in the universe, really. If I was ever given the opportunity again to care for pandas or care for a panda, I'd probably name the panda like something pretty cliche, like hope. It's not that all cliche for me, given my experience and just how much hope that adventure gave to me as far as my hope for the rest of the world and what we can do as a team to make things right for everybody, to help one another, to help build a strong community and kind of do away with any type of violence or inability to connect. I think a lot of it, for me at least, is about connection and having a connection with each other. What I really liked over there was that most meals you have a warm beverage. You had like either it was a tea or this warm milk or something nice. It was just really cozy. I think that's why I drink more tea. For the most part, human beings, regardless of where you're from, mostly stick to a schedule, should stick to a schedule. Over there, when it was work time, it was work time. When it was lunchtime, it was lunchtime. When it was playtime, it was playtime. I think over there, what really stood out was you do work together as a community more over there. That's just their culture. That's how it is. For us, one day, I went in their kitchen and I helped work. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We had these giant cutting blocks and we were making dumplings for everybody. My director over there, who coordinated this whole event, the whole show, all the filming, probably all the editing of this TV show, he was awesome. Abraham had so many down-to-earth conversations with me. He spoke Chinese, Japanese, and English. He gave me so much insight, not only as a filmmaker or as a director, but just as a down-to-earth human being. There were times where I just got to hang out with him one-on-one and just talk about stuff, and he was actually interested in me just being from America and living a different life, and I was telling him about how I hike a lot and how he does that, so we were able to connect on that. Oh, and then I was even telling Abraham about my motorcycle, and he said to me, that's not something, we're allowed to have over here. There's just like these little subtle differences that it's so fun to talk about when you're having the right conversation. If there's something that I could tell you about my experience in China, it would be to move forward with an open mind. When you find yourself in a new experience, don't worry so much. Don't be as resistant to it. Just go for it. Go be a part of whatever it is and make the most out of it while you're there. I still struggle with the thought that I might not see my friends over there again. We can keep in touch virtually, but I struggle with the idea that I might not see them again just due to the current state of the world in 2020 right now, where relations between all the countries, and a lot of them are just not in the best state, I guess you could say. It's difficult knowing that, and I guess I've kind of accepted that. I'm at this point in my life right now where I thought the panda keeping was going to be great and I'll come back to the US and maybe try and find a job doing that. But I'm at the point now where I'm still involved in my career in film, trying to grow my business and help make the world a better place, focus on self-development, motivation, and truth-seeking. And I know that if I focus on those things, that the right day will come where I can reconnect with what the adventure meant for me, and I hope to one day be able to give back to the Panda Bears in some way. I would like to give them some funds to help continue their conservation. Currently right now in China, they are rebuilding these forests to reconnect the zones where these pandas live in the wild. This way, it promotes genetic diversity instead of having these populations cut off from one another. Panda bears at one point, a couple years ago, they were considered endangered, but due to the efforts of China today and releasing more back into the wild, they are now off the endangered list. Now, that doesn't mean that our job is over because they are still considered vulnerable. Getting them off the vulnerable list will allow them to all return to the wild, where they can be appreciated from afar and not have to be constantly looked over. That's where they belong, is back in the wild. There was some few gifts that my friends gave me over there. Caesar had my back all the time. He gave me postcards. He gave me a nice book from China that I have with me here. Sarah gave me this nice necklace piece, this shamrock 4-leaf clover that I love dearly, along with a nice bookmark that has these wooden carvings of pandas on it. It's just all these little things that to me are just priceless. They help me remember my experience while I was over there. Finally, after being back in the States for a while, I was with my friends, and a very, very good tattoo artist had someone cancel on him, which I don't know why anyone would cancel on him. He does beautiful tattoo pieces. I immediately emailed him and said, I want to do a panda. Would you be interested in having me come to the shop tomorrow? He emailed me back, yes, come by. I'm scheduling you. I meet with him. I show him the photo. I say, I want to do this photo. He took his time with it. We had some good conversation. While he did the entire tattoo, I didn't look at it once. I waited till the very end, and he says, go look at this in the mirror. I got so choked up over how nice of a job he did with the detail in the eyes, in the ears, in the nose. It was just so cool to see that. I can now carry a part of that experience with me wherever I go. The panda that I got tattooed on me, his name is Meng Lan, and Meng Lan was grown as a baby from the giant research base of panda breeding in Chengdu. And when Meng Lan was younger, he actually had some health complications, and they didn't think that he was going to make it. He was able to fight through it. They gave him medication, and he beat whatever it was, and now he lives a happy life. Something that really stood out to me during my stay in China was their hospitality. The way they treated me as a guest was so welcoming. It was almost scary to just how much that was while I was over there. And it made me realize that sometimes back here in America, people aren't as hospitable as maybe they could be. After finally making it through this entire process where I think the group kind of dwindled down, they sent 2 more people home, and I managed to make it through a lot of these rounds of work, and I was super thankful for that opportunity, for them recognizing the hard work that I was putting in and saying, we want you to continue to stay. And there were 3 finalists. I was fortunately one of them, along with 2 other wonderful friends that I made over there, Jess and Sunny. They took the 3 finalists over to a panda enclosure, and they took us inside, and there were these baby pandas kind of scattered throughout the enclosure. Some of them were in trees, and it didn't take very long for them to notice us in there. Eventually they started climbing down the trees, and they got curious about the people in the enclosure. They just wanted to play. Next thing you know, 2 baby pandas came up to each side of me, and they kind of wrapped themselves almost around my legs. One of them was definitely on, the other one was like near me. He wrapped himself around my boot, and I froze. I stayed completely still. I didn't want to like scare him or anything. The cameraman, he was filming this, and I didn't go to like shake him off or anything, but I slowly lifted my leg up. I didn't know what the staff wanted me to do at that point, so I just kind of stood there in awe of this moment. After we had lunch and took a break, they took us back into that enclosure with the baby pandas, and the keeper there said to me something in Mandarin, and somehow I knew exactly what she meant, even though I didn't quite understand it. She told me to pick one of the baby pandas up and follow her. Even though me, someone who doesn't speak Mandarin, somehow I knew that that's what she said to me. So I went and I picked up one of the baby pandas, and at that moment it was like, I'm holding one of these things. This is why I came. I made it to the end. I'm so happy that I have this opportunity that not many people get a chance to, and I'm happy furthermore that this was filmed, that way other people can also experience this. I'm holding this bear, and she's like still saying things in Mandarin, and I'm like trying to pick up on what she's saying, but she wanted me to follow her, so I followed her out of the enclosure and brought the baby panda back to its mother, which was in one of the enclosures on the inside, because this was the nursery area for them. I walk into this other indoor enclosure, I put the panda down, she closes the door, and then the baby actually can fit through the inner enclosure to get back to its mother. It was reunited once more. After being a finalist in this and them thanking me for all my hard work, they gave me a beautiful honorary credential certificate that says you have the skills and what it takes to be a panda keeper. And to me that was, it's chilling right now. It was at that moment when I knew that all my hard work finally paid off and that I made it through this. The other super wonderful thing, which they didn't have to do, but they did for me, was they gave me an official panda passport to have access to enter the giant panda research base of panda breeding, as well as its other constituents. It's free access for life. It has my official photo on it. I have my own number there. And all I have to do is show them this panda passport, they stamp it, and they say, welcome, like, come on in. If I ever want to go back to China, I have been granted access from the state to come into these panda bases and just look around and say hi to any of my old mentors that were there. One of the gentlemen that was there, he was so awesome, and I could tell that this guy worked hard. His name was Mr. Yan, and he showed me all these different techniques with carrying bamboo and how to set it up in these enclosures right. It was cool because he didn't speak a lick of English, and I didn't speak a lick of Mandarin, but he still showed me how to do the job right. And that was cool. I made it a point to go back and get a picture with him because of how much I respected his hard work, his willingness to take the time to show me how to do things right there. That was definitely one of the most notable parts of my journey. These marvelous panda bears really mean a lot to me. And the reason for that is because I think that they embody innocence in some way. There's this playfulness to them, but they're also fierce. So you have this really good balance between them. I mean, they are the black and white, the yin and yang, this really interesting balance that we have. And I feel as though sometimes that innocence gets lost in this world because of how chaotic it can be. Knowing that there's something out there that exists only here on Earth, I don't think it should be overlooked. Sometimes I felt when I was over there that I had to maintain what it is to be an American and be as polite as I can be forthcoming with people, be honest, talk to people, be friendly, common decency. That was something that I made sure that I held myself to a high standard as a representative of the United States. Because this is my country, I love where I'm from. Obviously, everyone has their biases, but I am truly proud not only to be an American, but to have also had the opportunity to be an American in another country. I'm happy to represent the United States wherever I go. I remember the day that I was getting ready to leave from my adventure over there. I was at Caesar's house. I just finished packing my suitcase, and him and Sarah, they took me over to the airport. It was a strange feeling, kind of just sitting there, even when the time hasn't come yet. We haven't parted ways. I remember they called my flight number, and Caesar and Sarah walked me over to my gate, and then it was a very bittersweet goodbye, because I was able to just, I hugged them both dearly, and we all just kind of held each other for a minute, and I said, we'll be in touch. At that point, I didn't know if I would ever see them again, so it was very hard for me, and it didn't even hit me until after I walked through the gate and I waved goodbye after we hugged and whatnot, until I got in the room afterwards, where I definitely broke down a little bit. I felt it, and it was a hard moment for me to accept that I might not ever come back. It's difficult because it's I don't really get upset over it, because it was just such a good time over there. I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity, that I made these friendships with these people, and we still stay in contact with one another. I still talk to him on social media, and we can still video call every once in a while, but lately it's become increasingly harder to do that because of work and busyness. One day I really ultimately hope that our paths will cross again. Caesar actually wrote a postcard to me and said, I know I'm going to come and visit you in New York one day, and we'll be able to meet again. So that was nice. I'm trying to stay as hopeful as I can. Granted, it's 2020 and tensions are high in the world. I don't think any flights are going on back and forth right now from here to there, so it's not happening anytime soon. But I hope it does one day. My first flight heading back home after the adventure. This was one of the points in the trip where it was just a coin of gold, really, in one of this entire trip. It was really nice. An elderly gentleman, he sat down next to me. We didn't say hi or anything, really. We just sat down, and the flight was getting ready to take off. He's having trouble setting up his headphones to watch a movie on the screen. I was able to get a little movie going, and I don't even know what any of the buttons are saying, but because it's tech and I'm able to kind of pick up on it, I was able to get a movie going. He was having trouble. I said, let me help you with that. Of course, I know he doesn't understand any English, so I just plug it in for him, and I touch on the screen, and I get a movie going for him. He didn't even care. He was just happy. And he just the smile on his face that I took the time to help him with that, it was such a great feeling. Towards the end of the flight, I had a translator app on my phone, and I punched in safe travels and good luck to you, and I translated it, and I showed it to him, and he again smiled, just laughed, and was thank you. I think you can really, in situations like that, do the right thing. You can overcome any obstacle. You can overcome a language barrier. You can move forthrightly in the world in that way, and as long as you know you're trying to do the right thing, it's going to work out for you. You could you can do anything. You really can. These bears represent this balance to nature and the world, and a balance that should be kept, and sometimes it feels as though it's not. It's always been comforting for me to take the time to learn about them and just watch them for my own enjoyment, watch how they play, look at new photos of them. It's something that can help keep me calm when I'm having a stressed day. It's just so surreal that these bears exist the way they do. A lot of people think that they all look the same. They don't. It's far from it. They have different shaped eye markings. They have their black part behind them is kind of either thicker or shorter, and sometimes they have little white markings on their paws. Really just an incredible animal that to me represents the innocence of the world, and kind of just still gives me hope that we're gonna make it. If there is one message I leave with you after this journey, it's to seek new experiences, explore boldly, and build yourself to be strong. Take risks. You never know what will come from venturing into the unknown and facing it head on. You really learn a lot about yourself when you confront new challenges and expose yourself to new cultures, people, and situations. Don't let fear take control. Just go out and do that one thing you've always wanted to do.